So I just had an epiphany. I'm sure there's going to be some people out there saying, Brian, this is what we've been telling you this whole time. And honestly, I'm really excited by this thought. Now, for the longest time, I've seen debates, especially as it rages around MMORPGs, the state of gaming, greed, corruption, etc., all being debated about why gaming is struggling, why especially MMOs are struggling, and then the concept of how do they support their game without a subscription. There's a lot of context that this video assumes that you have. You guys can go check up on any of the previous videos. If you've missed any, you can check the link in the description if you're curious. But for the most part, this video is addressing Amazon Game Studios specifically, but reality-wise, it really should be talking to every developer out there on the concept of FOMO and on the concept of a cash shop. So, what set this all into motion? Well, Halo Infinite just kind of showed off more of their multiplayer, talking about their Battle Pass system. And honestly, this is something I was not aware of, but even Halo Master Chief Collection has a Battle Pass system. And at the end of the day, people say it is the most fair system overall. So let me explain how it works and then how I think games should, or developers should, at least analyze what Halo is doing in this case and see if it will be something that works for them, especially if they rely so heavily on FOMO, like Destiny 2 in this case. And Destiny 2 has gotten a little bit better, but still, at the end of the day, it's still FOMO nonetheless. So Halo's Battle Pass, you guys got to pay attention to this. The new Battle Pass system is tied to a free-to-play multiplayer version of the game. Once you buy a Battle Pass, it never expires. So as Battle Passes roll out, as the content gets added, these are basically acting like Guild Wars 2 reward tracks. So if you purchase a Battle Pass or you decide to hold off for any particular time, you can always go back and buy any of the past Battle Passes. I think that's smart financially, but with no expiration date, you basically equip which one you want to progress towards, and you work down that rewards track. Now, I don't know what kind of grind that's going to be in terms of gameplay, but I think that gives a very clear vision of basically your rewards. Thus, if you want to go after etc. cosmetic, they could say it's in Battle Pass Season 2 back from 2021 or 2022, something like that, and you can always go and get that reward without having this fear of missing out. And that, just seeing that, and people telling me that's actually how Master Chief Collection works, means I actually went and downloaded Master Chief Collection. Gonna go check that out later today or tomorrow, something like that. But regardless of when I'm playing Master Chief Collection, that mindset just all of a sudden set off a whole train of thought and frustration about the concept of FOMO, that fear of missing out, in my video games. To the point where FOMO drives me more out of the video game at first. Like, at first it's like, oh yeah, here's my daily, I'm active, I'm having fun with the game, so the FOMO doesn't feel so apparent. It doesn't feel so in my face. It doesn't, like, burn the way that it does when all of a sudden you stop having fun and the only reason you're logging in is to do your daily chores. And so that just got me, like, honestly saying that we, as a community, should hopefully continue to denounce that kind of mindset. Oh, dailies work because they work until they don't. And that's the thing. They work until they don't. Until you want nothing to do with that game. Until you log into that game and you're like, well, I got to do these things before I can actually go have the fun. And so to the Amazon game devs, to any game devs out there, I would highly recommend that you look and see what Halo is doing in this case, because it seems so much more, I guess, life balanced than anything else. We've seen this shift within gaming. Like, Fortnite is a huge proponent of it, and they've made, obviously, billions of dollars off of it. So it makes sense that game devs want to look at that and say, well, they're a very profitable business model. There's no subscription. It's free to play. People get in, and then they spend the money. But that FOMO connects people in, and then that sunken cost keeps people there. At the long of it, will Fortnite be remembered for this grand, experience, the thing that you just had fun with? Or is it something that you feel guilty about stepping away from? I guess we'll have to wait and see in the long run how that ultimately fares. And I have nothing against Fortnite specifically. It's just not my kind of game. Where I think Amazon could really knock it out of the park here is that they have talked about the concept of battle passes. They have talked about that as an idea. And a battle pass that expires is a battle pass that brings that fear, right? It brings that fear. However, a battle pass that doesn't expire is just a rewards track that you choose to whether you want to get on or off. And when to get on or off, right? It gives you, the player, the freedom of choice and empowers you to have these cool rewards that you get to go work on. It's like, best way that I could describe it is it's like a little add-on DLC pack. The real thing that they're going to sell this on is the expansions, and I got no problem with that. I think that's a solid model that works overall. When it comes to MMORPGs, everybody generally feels like with an expansion, you get enough content to justify the cost, right? So it acts as a yearly subscription, assuming they hit a once-a-year cycle, much like ESO does. But that being said, is that opening it up so that you, the player, can choose to go on these expeditions, essentially, if you think about it, and unlock the content and unlock and remove that fear out of the game. I hope they don't pair this with, those login daily metrics, those things that try, like the reward. The problem with the daily, and I'm bouncing around here. The problem with the daily is that the rewards are so good. The fear is that you're going to miss out on those rewards. And the other problem is that if you have dailies that, let's say that they stack up, at some point it becomes overwhelming to the player. It's a huge psychological game that's been being played on gamers for the last decade. Like I can't even think of an MMO right now that doesn't have that daily login incentive. Phantasy Star Online 2 is very guilty of this aspect, and it works. It works, but it doesn't feel good. And I think that's where hopefully we could start to see games get back to that fun as the focus, fun as the reason to log in, your friends are playing, and that FOMO shifts from a developer-driven incentive to a player-driven incentive. I think when you look at the past where these moments happen in gaming, these big moments, they're player-driven moments. So the FOMO ends up being like you're a part of this community. You were there when the Great Gubu Wall was formed in Final Fantasy XIV. You were there when this happened. And they tend to normally be player-driven events, maybe in response to some kind of developer-initiated content. So there is a kind of a give and take there. I don't want to sit here and say it's 100% player-driven. So I think when it comes to dailies, I would love to see them deleted out of these video games, and then that reward structure driven into a player-driven economy, so that as the player can play and they want to play and they want to do something because that thing that they're doing is fun, it can be equally as rewarding, if not more so. And the same thing with the Battle Pass. Like, I've gotten no issue with it, especially if it doesn't expire. So you get your Battle Pass, you equip your Battle Pass, and if you're coming into the game a year later, 2 years later, you end up having like really good options. And then they could always bundle these Battle Passes together to help save money, like to help just kind of incentivize people going back and playing through the developed content, in this case being most likely cosmetic and more. And I think that's such a healthy mindset, so that I, as a player, don't have to be afraid of not logging in to get my whatever check mark for that day, that star for that day, hitting those daily whatevers just to help boost my experience. I can choose to play when I want to play, and I can have fun with that. And if I'm not having fun, then the developers actually get a real measured response to the fun feedback as opposed to the monetary feedback. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to know yours. This was just the thought that kind of popped into my head, and I feel maybe I'm late to the party on this one, but I'd love to know where you guys fall. Battle Pass, no Battle Pass, yes or no? Does the non-expiration date, man, I struggled on that one. Does the non-expiration date make a big difference to you? I'd love to know. Anyway, guys, let me know what you're thinking. Hopefully this is some feedback. If it is positive and I'm not alone in this, maybe our voices can be heard, the more voices that we raise, but we'll leave it at that, guys. Thanks for watching my video. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. Hope to see you in my next one, but until then, take care.